It was a crisp November evening in 1978. The quiet town of Lennoxville, Quebec, was settling into the cold of winter, students hurrying back to their dorms, lights flickering through the fog, and somewhere in that mist, a young woman vanished without a sound. Her name was Theresa Allore. 19 years old, bright, kind, full of dreams, and only a few weeks into her new life at Champlain College. But that night, November 3rd, 1978, Theresa disappeared from campus, leaving behind her books, her friends, and a mystery that has haunted Canada for more than 4 decades. At first, police didn't sound any alarms. They said she'd probably run away. A teenage phase, a college dropout story. They told her family not to worry. But Theresa's parents knew something was wrong. She wasn't the kind to disappear. She was a responsible student, close to her family with no reason to vanish. Days turned into weeks. Posters went up. The family begged for help. But still, the authorities insisted. No crime here, just another runaway. And then, 5 long months later, on the Shrone, April 13th, 1979, a trapper walking near a small creek in Compton, Quebec, made a horrifying discovery. In the shallow water lay the body of Theresa Allore, partially clothed, lifeless, hidden by nature's silence. Police arrived, but even then, their tone was strange. They didn't call it murder. They suggested an overdose, maybe an accident. The family protested. Theresa had no history of drug abuse. The scene didn't make sense. Her clothes were scattered far from her body, and the location was miles away from where she was last seen. But still, authorities hesitated to call it foul play. It was a verdict that broke her family's faith in the system and would set one man on a lifelong mission for justice. John Allore, Theresa's brother, refused to let her case fade into forgotten files. Year after year, he gathered documents, interviewed witnesses, and reopened old wounds. What he uncovered was disturbing. Theresa's death was not an isolated tragedy. Within the same region, around the same time, other young women, like Manon Dubé and Louise Cameron, had also been found dead under eerily similar circumstances, all within a small radius, all brushed aside as accidents. Could there have been a serial predator stalking the eastern townships in the late 1970s? John believed so, and he wasn't alone. Several criminologists who later reviewed the evidence said it was statistically improbable that these deaths were unconnected. They saw patterns: isolation, abduction, bodies found in remote areas, but with lost files, missing evidence, and fading memories. The truth was buried as deeply as the case itself. Still, the Allore family never stopped asking questions. Why did the police dismiss it so quickly? Why were key witnesses ignored? And why did it take decades for the case to even be considered suspicious? In the absence of justice, John Allore became a detective himself. He launched a website and a podcast called Who Killed Theresa? A haunting question that echoed through every episode. His research inspired documentaries, true crime discussions, and even a powerful book, Wish You Were Here, co-authored with journalist Patricia Pearson. John's work exposed deep flaws in how Quebec authorities handled cold cases. His advocacy gave voice to other families who had lost daughters to similar fates, women whose names had faded from the headlines, but whose stories still demanded answers. Over time, public opinion shifted. The police could no longer ignore the possibility of a serial offender, or at least a chain of investigative failures. Yet despite decades of renewed attention, Theresa's case remains unsolved. No one has been charged. No confession ever surfaced. No closure was given. And the questions remain. Was Theresa killed by someone she knew, or by a stranger who slipped away under the cover of night? John Allore passed away in 2023, still fighting for justice for his sister. But his voice continues to echo through every podcast episode, every article, every new lead that emerges. Today, the case of Theresa Allore stands as a chilling reminder how easily truth can be lost when the system looks the other way. How one family's refusal to give up can force the world to remember what others have tried to forget. And maybe, just maybe, one day the silence of Compton's Creek will break, And the truth of what happened to Theresa Allore will finally rise to the surface.